Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Before we begin, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. Imagine this, the person you've built your entire life with, the partner who knows your secrets, your quirks, your joy, and your deepest anxieties, is suddenly lying motionless in a hospital bed. Wires and medical equipment surround him. The strong heart that once seemed invincible is now vulnerable. The laughter that once echoed through the room is silenced by the rhythmic beeping of monitors. For Kelly Ripa, this wasn't a television script or a daytime soap opera. This was her reality turned upside down when her beloved husband, Mark Consuelos, found himself in the ICU facing a battle no one could have foreseen. Kelly has always been the effervescent voice of our mornings, but in her recent emotional recollections, she described the terror that paralyzed her when Mark was hurried to the hospital. She recalled the haze of sirens, the endless sterile corridors, and the desperate prayers whispered under her breath as she trailed the gurney carrying her husband into intensive care. "I couldn't believe this was real," she admitted. "One minute we were planning dinner, and the next I was petrified I might lose him." What unfolded next left fans trembling. Mark, even as he struggled to speak during those critical early hours, asked to see their children. It wasn't just a casual request. It was a father's ultimate wish, voiced in a moment of unvarnished truth. He needed to ensure his kids heard directly from him. Not about his condition, not about the pain, but about love. He wanted to remind them of everything that truly mattered before it was too late. And that singular request, whispered between labored breaths, shattered Kelly's heart in a way no camera lens could ever capture. Now, here is where the story takes a turn. While Mark's wish was straightforward, fulfilling it was complicated. Their children were scattered, some working, some in school, living the lives their parents had proudly prepared them for. Kelly was conflicted. Should she shield them from the immediate horror of their father's condition, or honor his wish and bring them face to face with a reality none of them were prepared for? She chose love, and with that decision, the entire family's world shifted. When the kids arrived, the reunion was nothing short of gut-wrenching. Kelly described how Mark, despite being hooked up to machines, mustered his strength, determined to be the father his children needed him to be. He spoke to each child individually, offering words that will resonate in their hearts forever. To his eldest, he spoke of responsibility and bravery. To his middle child, he spoke of resilience and empathy. To his youngest, he whispered about joy, reminding them that laughter is a power in itself. But here's where the emotional weight deepens. Kelly confessed that as she watched her husband speak, she realized he wasn't just preparing his family for his recovery. He was preparing them for the possibility of a goodbye. She saw it in his eyes. That blend of affection and sorrow that only appears when someone stands at the precipice of existence and feels its fragility. For Kelly, it was agonizing. How do you hold on to hope while your partner seems to be making peace with letting go? This is the part of the story that left fans across America in tears. Kelly revealed that Mark asked her quietly, once the kids had stepped out, to ensure they never doubted how much he adored them. "If I can't say it tomorrow," he told her, "promise me you'll keep telling them for me." It was that plea, that final wish, that broke Kelly's heart. And yet, it was also what gave her the resolve to stay by his side, refusing to let despair win. Still, the question lingered. Would this be their last family conversation together? Would those words become his lasting legacy? That uncertainty, Kelly admitted, plagued her through sleepless nights in the ICU waiting room. She held fast to faith, to memories of their early years, and to the thought of all the milestones they had yet to witness together. And in the silence of those long nights, she realized something profound. Every family, at some point, faces moments like this. Maybe not in a hospital, maybe not under the harsh glare of ICU lights, but in moments where love collides with fear, where tomorrow feels unsure, and where the words we speak matter more than ever before. That realization sparked the message Kelly has since shared with her fans. Don't wait. Don't wait to say I love you. Don't wait to forgive. Don't wait to share a laugh. a story, or a hug. Because when life throws us into those ICU rooms, the only true wealth we have left is love. And too often, we realize it only when time is fading. And yet, Kelly's story doesn't end in tragedy, because in true Consuelos fashion, Mark's tenacity began to shine through. Slowly, the doctors reported small victories. His breathing improved, his color returned, his smile flickered back into the room. Each improvement felt like a triumph. But let's be clear, improvement didn't mean the battle was over. Far from it. As the immediate threat to Mark's life began to recede, a new, equally dauntless challenge emerged: the long, grueling road to recovery. For Kelly, the shift was disorienting. For days, she had been operating on high-octane adrenaline, fueled by the sheer terror of losing her soulmate. Now, as the monitors quieted and the urgent rush of doctors slowed to a routine hum, the adrenaline crashed. In its place came a profound exhaustion, the kind that settles deep in your bones when you realize just how close you came to the edge. She described those first few nights after Mark was moved out of the ICU as a silent vigil. Even though the doctors assured her he was stable, she couldn't sleep. Every time his breathing changed rhythm, every time he shifted in his sleep, her eyes would snap open. The trauma of that initial phone call, the ambulance ride, the white-hot fear of the emergency room, it was all still playing on a loop in her mind. I sat there in that dim hospital room, Kelly shared later, watching the rise and fall of his chest, and I realized that I had taken that simple motion for granted for over 25 years. You never think about your partner breathing until you're terrified they might stop. It was during these quiet hours that Kelly saw a side of Mark she had never seen before. We know Mark Consuelos as the tough guy, the soap opera hunk, the Riverdale villain, the man who looks like he could bench press a truck. But in that hospital bed, stripped of his strength and his public persona, he was incredibly vulnerable. And yet, his spirit remained unbroken. There was a moment, about 3 days into his recovery, that Kelly says she will never forget. Mark was still weak, barely able to sit up without assistance. A physical therapist had come in to help him try to stand for the first time since the incident. For a man who prides himself on his physicality, on his independence, the inability to simply stand up was devastating. Kelly watched as frustration washed over his face. He gripped the rails of the bed, his knuckles white, trembling with exertion. I could see the anger in his eyes, Kelly recalled, not at the doctors, not at the situation, but at his own body. He felt like it had betrayed him. She started to move forward to help him, to offer a hand, but he stopped her. With a subtle shake of his head, he signaled that he needed to do this part alone. He needed to prove to himself that he was still in there. It took him nearly 5 minutes to get from the bed to the chair, a distance of maybe 3 feet. But when he finally sat down, exhausted and breathless, he looked up at Kelly and grinned. It wasn't the polished red carpet smile we're used to. It was tired, it was raw, but it was triumphant. "Baby steps," he whispered. That phrase became their mantra for the next few months. Baby steps. When Mark was finally cleared to go home, the relief was overwhelming, but so was the anxiety. The hospital, for all its sterility and bad food, was safe. It had nurses, doctors, and monitors. Home was just home. There were no safety nets. Kelly admitted that the drive back to their house was one of the most nerve-wracking journeys of her life. She drove 10 miles under the speed limit, checking the rearview mirror every few seconds to make sure Mark was okay in the back seat. The transition to home life brought a new set of challenges. The dynamic of their household had shifted overnight. Mark, usually the anchor, the one who fixed things, the one who carried the heavy loads, was now the one who needed care. And Kelly, who often joked about being the high-maintenance one, had to step up as the pillar of strength. She described the first week at home as a crash course in patience and humility. Mark hated being dependent. He hated asking for water. He hated needing help up the stairs. There were moments of tension, moments where the frustration boiled over into snapped words and heavy silences. It wasn't the fairy tale recovery montage we see in movies. It was real, it was messy, and it was hard. But it was in this messiness that their marriage found a new depth. Kelly spoke about a specific evening, about 2 weeks after Mark's discharge. It had been a particularly rough day. Mark had tried to do too much, too soon, and had set his recovery back. He was in pain, angry with himself, and had retreated into a shell of silence. Kelly walked into the living room to find him staring out the window at the garden, looking defeated. Instead of trying to cheer him up with a joke or a distraction, her usual go-to, she simply sat beside him. They sat in silence for a long time, watching the sun go down. Finally, Mark spoke. He didn't talk about his pain or his frustration. He talked about the time he had lost. He told Kelly that lying in that hospital bed, he hadn't been worried about his career or their house or their bank account. He had been worried about the conversations he hadn't finished, the trips they hadn't taken, the simple, mundane Sunday mornings he might never get back. "I've spent so much of my life running," he told her. "Running to the next job, the next workout, the next goal. I think I forgot to just walk." That realization shifted everything for them. The new normal. Normal, for the Consuelos Ripa household, became less about achievement and more about presence. They started saying no to things. High-profile invitations, extra work commitments, social obligations that felt like chores. They all got cut. They circled the wagons. Fans began to notice a change on the show too. The banter was still there. The chemistry was still electric, but there was a softness to it, a gratitude. When they looked at each other, it wasn't just co-hosts playing to the camera. It was two people who knew exactly what it felt like to almost lose the other.